Any questions on day 1 topics and day 2 topics? If there is no questions, then we can jump on day 3. Yep. I think someone is asking the question being on mute. So no questions at all. Okay. So you guys are sure that you don't have any questions at all, right? Hello.
Bala, you can continue. I think no one is having questions.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, fine. So let us jump into the and an or kind of a true table. So if any of you from a computer science background or electronics kind of a background, you would have heard a particular thing called as true tables and the gates, logic gates. So and or and not kind of a basic logic gates. So it's just gonna be a refresher session about like how does a true table looks and an or condition acts when you pass in parameters to it. Okay. So let's say this is column 1 and this is column 2. So for you to explain, I mean, for me to explain it a little easier and better, I'm just going to use Excel for you and then we will convert this into a SQL code and see how it works. Okay. And, and logic and or logic, not logic on column 1. And we will do the same for column 2 also. Okay. So let's assume that there is two different columns with four possible inputs for both, right? So you're gonna say true for this and false for this, right? So true is column 1 input and false is column 2 input, and this is considered as a single record. Okay. So this is one way of combination to give a input to the logic gates that we have, right? So let's take true and true first, and true and false second, and false and true, right? And then false and false,
False.
right? Now forget about all of these, right? And let's look at only the AND gate first. So how do you pass a value to a AND logic gate? You will put a function. You will use a function called AND. And before starting the function in an Excel, you will use a equal to operator and then start typing in the function. So I just typed in and it dropped a list of functions that has and in the function that is already pre-built in Excel. And I'm just pressing tab so that it's opening this parenthesis for me to feed in the value. Okay, so this is the first value that I'm passing, which is B3, and then I'm giving a comma separator to go to the second input that I'm giving, and this is the second input that I'm giving, and I'm closing this off, right? Which means if for a AND logic gate, if I'm giving two inputs, like both are true, right, the result will be true. Okay. And if one of the result is also, I mean, if one of the result, if either of the result is not true, then it will return false. Okay, let's say if I copy the same formula here and paste it, right? And this is the value that I've passed, like AND B4 and C4, this will return false. So which means AND logic will entertain it as true only if both the parameters that you have passed into the AND function is true. Okay. Now let's copy down this same formula across the row. Now you will see that for the entire AND logic gate, right, this is the only place that you will get it as true, right? All the others are false. Why? Because true is the only thing that is that can get through AND logic, and the result will also be true, right? All the others will be false. Okay, so any questions on AND logic gate? I mean, we haven't got into the actual SQL, but for you to understand or make it easy to understand and an or logic or not logic in SQL code, I had to go through this true table logic gate explanation. Anyone on the call has a question on this and logic gate that I explained? No questions?
No, Balaji, it's like the basics only. I think everyone
Awesome.
knows.
So good. Then let's go for the OR logic. I'm just going to use the same thing and follow this, right? So in this case, OR logic, the concept is like if either of it is true, you will get true as the result. If one of that is, I mean, if unless and until both are false, you will get false as the OR gets this result. So this is OR logic and sorry, this is AND logic and this is OR logic. Okay, two different columns. And a NOT logic is very simple. So basically nothing but this is just going to be the opposite of a given input.
Hmm.
Okay. So if this says false, this will be true, and this says true, this will be false. So basically, there will be two possible outcomes. One is either false or the true, and the result is also this. I mean, the input is also the same way. So basically, if this is true, this will be false, and this is false, this will be true. That is not logic. Okay. So let's color this a little different. And false is again gonna be green, and sorry, false is gonna be yellow, and true is gonna be green. Okay, so the same way this will also be the case, not gate, and then for the column 2, and note that I'm giving only one input for the not gate. For the true and or I gave like two different inputs because not gate is gonna work just based on one single input. Okay, so you don't have to pass two different inputs. Okay, so does it make sense? So this is AND logic, OR logic, and these two are like not logic, right? Not gate logic gates, right? So any questions on this true table? So we can jumpstart with our SQL way of doing the same. And later point of time, we can use the same to actually, use Shintu's data to check if it is making sense to look at and use the AND and OR logic gate in that. So no questions at all on logic gates concept, then we can jump into the SQL part and try explaining the same. Can I?
Yes, Balaji.
Awesome. Cool. So everyone knows that this is my local server that I've connected and there are multiple databases and I'm going to use the training to for today's day again. So I'm going to type in use. Why? Because it's here as master. So I wanted to switch that to training 2. So I'm just selecting this and clicking F5 or else just the execute so that it changes to training 2, right? And now I'm going to create a table. Okay. So how to create table? So this is not going to take a lot of time. So table 1 and sorry, let me move the cursor. Column 1, I'm just going to replicate this exact table. So let me just split the screen into two so that it will be easy for us to validate our result and do it, right? I don't need this. So there is a auto hide option. I'm using that. So it's auto hidden. And if I want, I can click and I can get that same. So column 1, and I'm gonna save this as a Boolean or else a varchar. So for now, you guys remember there was a data type that we were discussing. So here we had different data types, and there was a binary data type, which will save it into one digit, one character kind of
One
a
and
thing.
zero.
Yeah, 1 and
Yes.
0. So we're gonna use that, right? So it's gonna be very simple. It's so the way that I declare will be like a bit. So then the second column is column 2 and then a bit again. So this is my create table syntax and I'm just creating the table, right? And I can insert the value, insert into table name values, and then I'm gonna punch in the value that I wanted to insert, right? Let's switch back to our Excel where I wanted to, so only these two I'm gonna insert into the data that we are interested in. Okay, so column 1 and column 2, we are going to create that here, and we have already created. I'm going to punch in these values. Okay, so this one I'm going to say true, and this one is true again, right? So let me copy paste this for like 4 times so that I have 4 rows. And this is like false, and this is going to be false this time, and the last one is going to be false and false, right? So if I'm just selecting the entire 4 set of insert statement and then clicking on execute, so it says one row, one row, one row affected. Now if I write a select star from, you remember guys, star is nothing but select all from this structure, right? So there were 2 options. One is like select all or select distinct, and you can write a specific column name in this and select. So right now I'm going with a select star, simple thing, because I know this entire table has only 4 rows, and the table name is going to be true table 1. Okay, so if I do a select star from, and you get this result. Note that I gave value as true and false and true, but the way that computer reads this is like 0 and 1s. So if you mirror replicate this, and instead of true you say 1, and true you say 1, right? 1, 0 and 0, and 0, 1 and 0. So this and this is gonna be the same result, right? Let me work with a little bit of alignment stuff here. Yeah, so if you see, this result is exactly same as this result, just because true and true is read as 1 and 1 in computer language, right? So here also the same way, we gave value as true and true, true and false, false and true, false and false, but the computer read it as 0 and 1s. Why? Because the kind of data type is a bit, okay, bit data type, that specific column 1 and column 2. Now we wrote a select star from that, and when we execute it, we are getting the same result, okay. So now we are gonna experiment the and or logic, right? So you guys remember like how to give multiple lines of comment. This is the syntax, and now you can type in whatever the thing that you wanted to type, and none of this will be taken care by the compiler. It will ignore it. Why? Because it is considered as a comment. Okay. Testing and or get. So note that always and or is written as in capital letter. Not that your SQL will not understand if it is not written in capital letter, but it is a good practice to write and or in capital letter, because it is letting you know that it is basically a gate function you're using, or a logic gate function that you're using. Okay. So let's start from the table name again, and then we will say specifically I want column 1 and then column 2, right? And then I wanted to say here that, you know, I'm gonna write a case statement here. Case when, sorry, column 1 is equal to 1 and column 2 is equal to 0, right? Then say, okay, 1 and then say 1, else say 0, end, right? So this is just a simple case statement that I've written. So what will this do is, this will help you to give a particular condition here. So this is your condition 1. You're checking basically column 1, does it has 1 as the value? You're using this and function here, which is, right now I'm changing it to the capital letter. You note that it is in gray color, it's not in blue. It's a reserved keyword by the SQL itself. And you're giving the second condition that you wanted to check, which is again column 2 is equal to 1. And then if that is the case, if both of these are satisfied, then you're gonna get a result as 1, or else you're gonna get a result like 0. Okay, so this is your first case statement, and this will help you to validate if a given result is verifying and condition. Okay, so let us give a column name also for this, like and get or and logic, just like how I have given it here, and logic C1. Let me just put that here. And logic on, yeah, and logic, right? Okay, that is on not logic and logic. I just typed in again. So what is the point of having this typed here is like instead of getting it as no column name, you will have this alias. So the name given for this kind of way to represent a column is alias name. So this case statement by default without this will be like no column name, but now we are giving alias name. So when you run this, no column name will disappear and you will get the unlogic kind of a heading on top, but it will help you to get the same result, right? This kind of a result here. Okay. So you see that we just validated the unlogic using SQL, right? Using a case statement and using and get here. So if you see, this is exactly is the same thing that we are getting here. One is for true and all the others are false here, right? So the same way we are able to write it in the SQL and get the result. Any questions on the AND gate from Excel? We got that same replicated into the SQL. Any questions on this, guys?
Hey Balaji, Sriram here.
Hey, hi Shriram. Yeah,
Balaji, just want to know where we will apply these classes to
yeah. So
understand it.
yeah, you remember we imported a table from the accounts team, and we had this here like finance data, right?
Yeah, I got it. So can
So
you
let's
bring
say,
up with some examples?
yeah, definitely. We're gonna go there after we say the or condition and the not condition. We will look into this finance data, and instead of column one and column two, we will plug in maybe region and sub-region to it with different value instead of one, and try validating and an or condition. Will that help?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Balaji.
Right. Yeah, sure, man. So the point is that once if the logic is so strong in your mind, then it'll be easy for you to like implement that in any business case and make use of it. Okay. Okay, fine. So next I'm gonna type in the now we did it for the and, right? So now you have the other three things that we have to check, like or and the not, right? So for now, I'm gonna do it for or. The way that I'm gonna do is the same case statement, case when call one is equal to one, or call two is equal to one, then say one, else say zero, end, and or logic. Okay, and yeah, that's it. Because you see that there is a small highlight here, the red one. That is because I had a typo error, and I had to edit that to call to, right? And let's say you run this, right? So now you get this result like 111 and then 0 here, which is exactly is validating this condition here, right? All these are true, all these are true, and all these three are true, right? This is the case when you have at least one of the input column is 1 and the other one is 0, or both the things are like 1. So basically the AND concept is like at least I mean both the values column 1 and column 2 should be 1 for getting the result as 1, and our logic is like either of it should be like 1 or true, right? Only then you will get the result. Okay. And finally the not case where not column 1, I'll better write as a separate query, okay, so that you guys will have a better understanding. So for the not alone, okay, so and an or gate is written here as the concept, and the not I'm writing it separate. Not gate, select star from, you have this, and if you write this, obviously you're gonna get the complete set of result that you have it in the table, which is just 4 columns exactly like this what you have. And I'm gonna write a where clause. Remember guys, where clause, it's basically a filter that you're gonna use, right? Not column 1 is equal to, let's say, true. Okay, so this what it will do is filter off column 1. uh, it shouldn't have a value like true. It will have only false. The same way you can write it for column 2 as well, right? So you guys wanted to see what is the difference between this and this. So first, I mean, I just combinedly wrote and just executed this. So this has completely 4 records, which is like select star from. And this not condition here, I'm just writing a condition here like this shouldn't have the value like true, so it's gonna return false for both the columns. I mean, it's gonna return only the result which has column 1 with not equal to true, right? So this is the not gate. Okay, so if you guys are clear with this particular concept like AND, OR, and NOT gate, then we can jump into the actual data that makes sense with a business context from finance data that we are all good with, right? So any question, guys? Like how to use AND gate, OR gate, and NOT gate. This is super important, guys. So please feel free to ask questions if you have one, right? And no one has any questions. That surprises me a lot.
Bala, I have one question here.
Yeah, Varsh.
Can you go back to the code? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you see the case statement that you have given, you have proactively provided the logic there,
Right,
right? So you have actually given a logic that if column 1 is 1
right,
and column 2 is 1, then return the value as 1, else 0.
right.
And then again you're using can the and you
Yeah,
said it's a reserved
right,
keyword. Even
right.
though if you don't use and, I think you're self-explanatory defining the logic itself.
Right.
It will ideally
That's
respond.
actually right. But it would actually make sense when I'm giving it with the actual data version, right? So this is just a case where I wanted to explain this is how, AND and OR logic will give the result in SQL. But when you're writing a code in the where clause between column 1, let's say column 1 is equal to some hard-coded value, and
Mhm.
let's say column 2 with some
Mhm.
hard-coded value, right? In that case, that is the actual way that you can use this and
Not in the example that you
not
have
in
given.
this.
Like it
No.
was
This is
just
just
for
to
a
make you
layman
guys, yeah,
layman
yeah,
language.
right. This is just to make you guys to understand and replicate the Excel version of what we have looked in here. You don't really need this kind of a case statement here, or like this is just to make you all understand like how does and logic can be used, right, within a
Okay.
SQL
I
statement. Now, when we actually get into the finance data, it'll be much more like explained in
convenient.
brief and yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah, that's all from my end. Thank you,
Yeah,
Balaji.
thanks. Okay, so yeah, let's just look at the top 10. So remember, guys, top 10, top is a keyword that is a result keyword to look at the top 10 result from a given table, right? And this is what we have it from the top 10 from the finance data. So we had this data from the finance team, right? And this would make some sense for us to connect it to the actual Dell data that we have so that we can, like, I think I can maximize this for now. So this is the total like top 10 kind of a structure that we are looking into this finance table. So this had like 8,000 rows in the entire finance table, and we are just looking at the top 10 sample of it. And now we are going to write a where clause, and we're going to give a condition here, okay? Region, and let's not take top 10 here. Let's take region, right? And then sub region, right? And then let's say cache posted by. Note that as soon as I say cache posted by and then the tab button, it auto populates it with the square brackets. That's why, I mean, why that is because here you have space, right? And SQL will not understand unless and until you give this with the square bracket. So if you don't give it with the square, SQL will think cache is the column name and this is the alias name since it is not given with the comma, right? And then at the time when it is trying to read this space and by, it will throw an error, right? So that's why we have those square brackets around. And now let's say if I run this like top 10, right? I'll get a result and now I'm not interested in the top 10. Let's say I'm gonna write it for distinct, right? So I'm just taking off this where clause, right? Say you just have this and you just execute this. So this has 130 unique records from the entire 8,000 population, right? And now I can write a and or a or clause within this data set. Okay. So now if you look at it, right, let's take a good example here. I think this region and sub-region, always it is the same. So it doesn't make sense to use this. So let's take the cache posted by and this one. Or 1 minute, let me look at the complete data set once again. Right, and then okay, I think it will make sense to take receipt method name with us. Let's see how this looks. Okay, okay. I'm just trying to see a overlap between these two so that we can actually use this data for and an or condition kind of a thing. For now, let me take this off also. Like remember guys, for like commenting single line, I can use this two small dashes. So there are 105 combinations, and then I'm using something called as order by, and I'm just giving 1 comma 2. So 1 signifies the column 1 and 2 signifies the column 2, right? And okay, so now okay, let me write reverse of it. So if you see AT Bank Giro, is that the way to pronounce, guys? Yes, no, maybe. Okay.
Balaji, you did order by 2, comma 1.
Comma 1,
So
yeah.
it should be the receipt method first and then the region.
No, I wanted to see with the same receipt name, what are the different regions so that we can build a story for and
Okay,
an OR logic. Mhm.
can you just do 1, comma 2 and then run the command?
Yeah. So one
Line
second.
32, 33, 34.
Yeah. So what will this do is, like if I say 1 comma 2, it'll try to organize the data based on the first column, which is region, and then it'll arrange the same data after it got arranged for the region. It'll arrange it based on the column 2, which is receipt method name, right? But for my case, I wanted to see two different receipt methods I mean, same receipt method with used with two different regions, right?
Mm,
So that is why I gave it like 2 comma 1. Okay, so
okay.
if you see this, the second column, which is nothing but receipt method,
It
is
just did
how,
the order for the second region.
yeah. So first it orders it based on the receipt method, and then it goes with the region, right? So by the way, you can use this order by instead of 2 comma 1, you can give the actual column names as well. So person like me like to use like 2 comma 1, which will be much more simplified, but you can actually give the column names as well. And this is not applicable for the group by clause. Only for order by clause you can use numbers instead of column names, but for group by you will have to use like actual column names, unless and until if you're not using MS SQL. In other databases like Teradata, I mean that's out of scope for now for most of them, but if you're using other databases you can still call like 1 comma 2, right? But for in MS SQL, for order by alone you can give 1 comma 2 or 2 comma 1. Instead of column names you can give numbers, but in group by you will have to give these names. You can't give 1 comma 2. Okay. So for now, I mean, is that clear, guys? So I
Yes,
have
Bala.
this, yeah. So I have this where clause, and like why it is in red. Good case will have a cookie. from clause was missing. Okay, so you have this, and now the red thing is still there. Why? Because I haven't given an equal to symbol there. So now this will properly act like a AND logic gate. Okay, so this will give, now you have this 105 results, right? Now the result is gonna shrink a lot, and it's gonna give you when both of these are equal to this, right? So there is only one possible combination with this given AND condition. So AND condition is gonna satisfy both of your inputs, which is like, region has to be like Central Europe, which is right here, and the receipt method has to be like AT Bank Giro. So if both the condition matches, only then the result will appear in your select clause. So this is your AND condition. Okay. Now let's say if you want to see the complete result set, whichever has this AND gate, now it would make more sense. Only out of 8,000 transactions, you have only 4 of these records which has this combination, like, region is equal to Central Europe and receipt method is like, AT Bank Giro, right? So this is your AND condition, right? Any questions on the AND condition part? See, it should satisfy both the conditions. Like, the region also should be like Central Europe, no escape from that. And the receipt method also should be like AT Bank Giro. And there should be a keyword like AND in the middle. So both the condition, if it is satisfied, only then the SQL is going to return anything at all, right? If it is not meeting, then it won't give you this result. Okay. So let's say for the sake of introducing some error, right? So instead of gyro, I had some extra O's inside of this. And if I run this, for sure, there is no receive method with this gyro at all. So if I run this, there is gonna be a null result. I mean, there is no result at all. This is an empty result, right? So this is because this condition is never gonna be satisfied with this and at all, right? This condition is always by default is gonna be a false. And there is a AND operator here, and it's always gonna return empty result unless and until we go and change this value for any of this existing value with the Central Europe as the region. Right? Any questions on the AND part? So we just covered this part, like, true and true, or like, this part with 1 and 0, right? The false part. This is what we just validated now. We are good? Yeah, Vinil, any question, man? There are no questions at all. Hey, for sure, I'm gonna come walk up to your desk and have a slip test with every individual, okay? Yeah, Vinil, you are about to ask any question? So it's fantastic to have every single person in the class with, like,
Yeah, Bala, I have a question.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Preeti.
Okay,
Yeah, please go on.
maybe not related to the AND, but I find you have selected this multiple, you have written this multiple select statements. And so I also find that it's taken select all from finance data as the
Right.
question that is taken as a priority.
Mhm.
So
Do you want
can
to take something else instead of finance data?
no, I just wanted to know, so is select all is taken as the priority question, or
And concept is the priority thing in this
okay,
particular session, and an or.
okay,
The logic
okay,
gates. Why? Because the where condition can be effectively utilized only if you have this and or concept or logic in mind. So yeah. So not,
okay,
I mean, I'm not focusing on the select star part. I'm just
okay,
focusing on the and the or part here,
okay,
right?
okay.
Okay, guys, now let's just replicate the same, and I'm gonna replace this with the or clause here, okay? So let's run this. So remember, how does the or clause work? If either of it is true, right, it's gonna give a true. So here, just one of that is true, and it said true. and just one of that is true, and it said true. Both of that are true, and it was true. So let's use that OR logic gate here, and you see the number of results just got from 4 to 1853, right? So which means in this given result, either the region is equal to Central Europe. At the condition when this region is equal to Central Europe, we are not bothered about what is the value that is there in receipt method. This can be anything, okay? Or the other way around, when the region is not equal to Central Europe, right? Let's search for one of that example. Okay, good. Until I see that the entire region is only of Central Europe. How to see that much better is like with the distinct region, right? Awesome. So I don't have a record that says a different Central Europe at all. Okay. Okay. In this case, let's then take account lookup. Okay, account status lookup instead of region status lookup, right? And the account status lookup is gonna be like, you know, prepaid. I'm gonna do that for the AND as well as the OR condition. So yeah. Okay. Now note that we have two different values at least in the account status lookup. One is like prepaid and another one is like UA. So now if we run this, it's gonna get only the result that has both of these yes, because it is a AND condition. Okay, let's run this. Okay, that is because I don't have a select star kind of a thing here. Let's write a select star and see. You see that all of the account status will be prepaid, and all of the receipt method will be like AT bank Giro. Okay, so this is how the AND clause will work, and there are 4 records. Okay, now let's run this, right? And obviously the number of records is gonna be like huge. So you see that either, I mean, one of the condition, if it is satisfied, then we will get a result in the OR clause. That's why, you know, the number of records compared to the AND, the OR clause, the number of records that you get is more, right? Let's search for an account status lookup value that is not equal to prepaid. Okay, so here if our prepaid, I mean account status value is equal to prepaid, we don't have to be bothered about the method. So one of that is satisfied in the OR condition, so it will get the result. Let's search for something which is not a prepaid, right, and see if that makes a sense. Okay, 1 minute. At times like this, I just give a order by, and this is 1, 2, and 3, right? Am I making a mistake? Sorry guys, just a minute. I don't know why. Okay, so I think it'll be better if I use my own data set instead of this and an OR confusion that we have here. Okay.
Balaji, one question here.
Yeah.
In this instance of your query, right, you have 2 different columns given with OR
Right.
parameters. So why not we try for the same column name instead?
That you shouldn't do it. Why? Because if one of that is true, the other one is also should be like true or the false. It's like, you know, you can't have, for example, For the same account status, you can't pass in two different values here. See, let
Yeah,
me
but the
explain it.
value should be from the same column instead.
Right, yeah, but you can't pass it that way. Let's say you have column 1 and column 2. Okay, so in this case, let's assume in column 1 you have Apple, right? According to the AND clause, uh, let's say let's say according to you, the column 2 doesn't exist. Is that right?
No, it may exist, but the result or the output that we are
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
from
So
the
yeah, in the AND
from the
clause, you're
framework.
going to use only column 1. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Right. Okay, fine. So in this case, let's say you can pass a condition where column 1 is equal to Apple. Okay. In this case, you can never assign like column 1 again. It's the same column is equal to orange. Okay. Why? Because already you have done a equal to operation on the same column. Okay. So this is already checking whether the column A has Apple as the value or not, and this will return one value, one bit as the result, which is like either can be true or false, right? Now, if there is a AND clause already here, right, you can't do another operation here. This will also return 1 or 0, and this will always be like giving you a negative result. Why? Because unless and until you have here also like Apple, right? Why? Because always the column 1 is already validated and there is a like true or false kind of outcome, and you have another same column name with a different value to evaluate. In this case, what happens is there will be this can never be equal to, let's say this way, right? Apple is not equal to orange. Agreed? And this part left side of your equation has a value like true or false, and right side of the equation also will get you a true or false, right? So this will only be valid if you have Apple here also, right? This can never be like this can never get a true as a result if we have it this way. So for example, this orange, this will always be false. Agreed?
Balaji, I understand this part. What my suggestion was here, since we are using two different columns and our
Right.
gate here is not and, it's or. So the result output that we got was only for one particular column or field. So if we give column 1 as our source and the gate, if it is for or, we could either choose to have apple or the orange, but the result output would be for for one particular field is what my
Okay,
thought
for
process.
AND condition, you will have to pass two different values, right? Sorry, am I missing something? So let's say you have and you have to pass at least two parameters for the AND gate. So you will have to use column 1 and another column apart from column 1, right?
Yeah, thought we were querying for or gate instead of and.
No, we are still in the AND part here. Okay, where we
Okay.
doing the OR part, but even in that case, okay, that way you can use it if it is not a AND, but for OR you can use it. But again, this column is okay. 1 minute, guys. So I think this has to be like giving me result other than prepaid as well. 1 minute. Oops. Okay, prepaid. Hmm. Just a second. Okay. Okay, it'll be better if we have our own data set and then evaluate this, right? Instead of the finance data that we have. I'm just trying to create a table, a dummy table, okay? Apple, 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 orange, 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 and then what? Orange and apple, right? I'm good. Cool. So in this case, it's gonna return only the top result that we have it here. Apple and apple, okay. So this is for the and condition, right? And then let's again do a select star to see this apple, and then this should be like orange. Okay, so you have only one combination here, right? So let's say now if you have a or clause here, this will bring out three results. Why? Because one of this is satisfied, then the or will behave that it is satisfied. Okay, so in this first case, let's say column 1 is it equal to apple, it is satisfied, so it is true. It doesn't even have to check for the condition 2 because it is a or clause. Okay, and the second condition, the column 1 has apple as a value, which is satisfying one left side equation of our or clause, so it is again true. In the third clause, the left side equation fails, it's getting a value false because apple is not equal to orange. Okay, but it went to the second part, which is on the right side. The column 2 has the value like orange. Okay, so or qualified the results, all of these three results. You know, where did it fail? So the place that it failed is right here, where both of them are apple, right? So, I mean, I see that the given example, the working example that we have it from the finance data did not get the and an or clause in place that we were trying to do because I did not look into the actual data to get this and an or in place. But yeah, this is the logic that I wanted to explain on how to actually use this and an or condition in the where clause or the case statement so that you can make use of this logical functions in your query so that it gives you some kind of an insight, right? But again, next class I will make sure that I have this data corrected in the backend, and I'll get back to you guys with actual and an or logic with the working data set. I mean, I know that this is the mock-up data set that I have prepared, but for understanding the logics, the mock-up data set is super important because obviously when you look at the actual data set, like how we have it in the finance table, obviously the data will be huge and you might miss out the logic. So I wanted to have you guys a strong base in, I mean, base information or the right logic in place about the and on logic and on or logic or any kind of a basic thing so that you can utilize it good in the query. So yeah, in the next class, I will make sure that this finance data or any actual data that I'm using has the right combination of and or. But for now, in the made up example that we have here, does anyone has any questions in the and or logic?
No, biology.
Yeah, Varsh.
I think we are pretty clear about it.
Okay, great. Hey, guys, if you have any questions, just once Google it, and if you're not able to get the answer, reach out to me. And if I'm not able to answer on the spot, I'll say I'll get back to you later, and you will never see me coming back to you. I mean, I'm just kidding. But we'll figure out some time on how to explain that, or maybe a larger set of audience, if they haven't got what I'm trying to explain, we'll find out another better way to, you know, explain the same, right? Any other questions, guys? Not
Balaji,
only
can you
this
please put the filter on the receipt method only?
receive method on only, yeah. Receive method alone. Okay.
And because my understanding is I think the data what we are looking is only available in central data. That's why it's not pulling.
Uh-huh. So you mean to say in the finance data, it is only the central data that we have. It's not all the
Yes.
data. Yeah, that's true. It is
Yes.
just a partial set of data that I pulled out from.
So
I
if
forgot
you
his
put
name.
just put a filter at adbank, you're right. Probably I think
We have
yes.
these many
See.
records, right?
No, yes.
I think
Which
the
means if it is
example that I
showing only
picked is a
central data.
wrong example, right? Because in
Yes.
entire this one, I don't have a
Probably if
payment
you pick
method different.
cash posted by, it may give the result
Hmm. Cash posted by. Okay, let's try that
because
real quick. Do
that
you
is
think
something which will
Lavanya would have the different set of cash
yes
post?
different.
Okay, let's try that.
Or you can
Posted
take
by.
Suhas or yeah anyone.
Okay, so if you look at it, yeah, it actually makes sense. Hey, thanks for bringing that up. Who's that? Is it Alagri?
Yes.
Yeah, the bright boy in the class. Yeah, still, from the accounts, he's the bright boy, and like, from the bag, I think it's Vash who's on the bright side. Cool. Okay, now let's look at the distinct. Hey, I know I'm taking some extra time, but you guys are real good students, so I think you can spend an extra 5 minutes for the class, okay? So, what are the different account status code with? Okay, I'll take this and this as a combination, right? Cash posted by. So, yeah, Lavanya M1 has two different methods like payment and UA, right? Let's try fitting this into our and an OR logic and see if that would help, okay? Okay, select star from, let's say this finance data, where, like, cash posted by, like, never take a risk of typing of your own, just copy paste it. It'll save a lot of time. And logic, account status lookup is equal to prepaid, right? And I'm just gonna write the same thing so that it'll save us some time, right? Now this is gonna shrink and become as just one single row line item, right? And now if I use a or clause here instead of and, so you will have this, right? Which means, pay is used by Bindu, S2, Florence, Geeta, all of these people, right? And it just has to satisfy one of this condition. So that is how the OR condition. By the way, the second one that you have here is the OR clause condition, and the first one that you have is the AND clause condition, right? And if you see in the second OR clause condition, one of that is met. Like, let's say either this is prepaid, or one of this would be like, with the name Lavanya M1, which is right here. In this case, UA got qualified, this record got qualified. Why? Because UA is still not equal to prepaid, but the name is equivalent to Lavanya 1. And for sure, if you go into this data, Lavanya M1 will also have another record for prepaid as well. Why? Because one of the condition got satisfied. So hence this is and an or clause explained. So next class I'm not going to explain and an or anymore, but yeah, I think you guys are, I mean, this should explain what is and an or clause in SQL, right? Is there any questions or doubt?
It's just like putting a double filter, in a filter we select two names, right?
Yeah. So even you can add any number of and conditions in this. Okay. I can give some dummy conditions
Yes.
like 1 is equal to 1. Can this ever be failed? It can never be failed, right? This will still give me the same result. Like let's say and 0 is equal to 0. This will also give me the same result. And I can add more number of it, right? Maybe 10 is equal to 10, right? And true is equal to true. This will throw error. Why? Because I am not closing it with the. This will also give me the same result. You can add n number of and in next to it, provided this should always return a true in it. Let's say one of this fails, like one of this is failing. Remember the condition for the and? It will not return anything because one of this failed. If both of this passes, only then you will get the result here like green. Right, that's how sorry, if both the results or any number of column 3 4 5, how much ever it is there, all the conditions should satisfy, only then the and condition is, well, and the condition will return a true value, right? And the
Yes.
same way you can use or here, like anything, like let's say Dell is equal to EMC, or let's say HP, or let's say uh, let's say anything like Lenovo is equal to um, Apple. Right? And by the way, it doesn't always has to fail. Okay, you can make it to pass also. Like let's say one. Uh, let's give a better example here. Let's say Reliance is equal to same Reliance. So this will still give you the same 99 row results. Okay, so you can add, the point is that you can add n number of or and conditions in a given query. Okay guys, are we clear?
Do we have assignment for this week?
Yeah. Soon you can expect something as an assignment from my side. You guys will have to import some data into Excel, or you guys can try out the same query. So please try
Balaji,
this
there
out.
is a problem in importing the data. I think
Mhm.
for only the people who work in SQL, right, they can import.
Okay. Hey,
We,
no issues.
we are not
So
able to import.
yeah. So for that, there might be a known issue where you will see something called as hey, 1 minute. Do we have Taiba? Were you able to import or did you get an error? So you might have to install a driver in it. Do you remember what driver it is? It's Adobe
In
driver.
local server, I'm able to import it, but the server credential, whichever what
Mhm.
you have gave, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not working
So
here as well.
1 minute, guys. Rajat, were you able to install it, or were you getting an error? And then was I asking you to install something in the local machine, and then you were able to import? Is that the
Yeah,
case?
Balaji, I installed but not able to import
Uh-huh.
installing also.
Okay, fine. Can one of you take a screenshot of the error and then share it to me so that I can give a global solution for that on the next call, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, Balaji.
yeah, I think Alagiri from finance side and Rajat maybe from my side come up with that example, right? I remember today she's not on the call. Anamika had the same issue, and I think she got that fixed after installing the. It's just a driver issue, okay? And trust me, there'll be a number of simple issues which you can just like that Google and get the answer on the go, right? See, the only thing that I'm worried about is like having these logics in place, right? The pure SQL way of writing it in a business term and making sense of the data. The technical questions you can always Google and get that solved, right?
yeah. Yeah, Balaji, I had
Yeah. Hmm.
talked to Namita and she shared that link with me.
Oh, is it?
That
Awesome.
Adobe, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Microsoft
Right. So
Adobe.
the driver
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah, I think that's the answer that she was trying to prepare. I'll either ask her to share it to the larger audience team, or
Yeah,
else you can just mail me separately. I'll just give you the link in the Google, which will help you to solve that issue. Right?
yeah, sure. I think I'm
Awesome.
happy
Cool.
with it.
Okay, guys. Thanks for joining. Right. After the heavy Diwali festival, thanks for joining the call, and just ping me if you have any questions or doubts. Okay.
Yeah, this is the link, Balaji. I'm sharing it.
Uh-huh. Oh, there you go. Hey, thanks for keeping it handy. Cool. Guys, Alagiri, maybe you will have to test that. So there'll be two options in that. So you will have to download the 32-bit version. Is that right, Taiba?
No, it's 25.
I
32
doubt if
didn't
there
work
is a
for me. Yeah.
25-bit. Okay, Alagiri, just download both of that and try installing it. Okay, then it should work.
Sure, Balaji.
Okay, guys, thanks for all of your time. Right,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
sooner or later I would upload the video of this in the same channel in the YouTube, and then we can catch up. Okay, cool. Thanks for joining again.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Balaji.
See you
Balaji.
Thank you very
guys. Yeah,
much.
thank
Appreciate it.
you
Take
all.
care.
Yeah,
Bye
thank
bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks,
Sure.
Balaji.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
See you.
Bye bye.